So far, both of y'all are employed.
Yeah, because we haven't chosen to leave yet.
Yes, sir.
We are ready.
I hope it works out well for you.
Good evening and welcome to all. This work session of the Poquoson City Council is called to order. We have two items tonight for the work session. The second one being a pickleball conditional use permit discussion. First being a history of Ashlin Farm and Oxford Plantation. We have a special guest tonight with us, none other than Mr. Benji Hahn. Benji is a Poquoson High School graduate, born and raised, of course. He is a former city attorney and retired as a Commonwealth's attorney from York County. Back in the 70s, when I was a kid, I knew Benji when Benji was a law school student, and he was one of my role models in the neighborhood. So Benji, I do appreciate that, and your influence helped prepare me for my current role. And Benji is a proud owner of a Century Farm, and he's going to share with us some oral history about not only his farm, but about our community. And this is part of what we're doing in celebration of our 50th anniversary as the independent city of Poquoson. And I'd also like to thank our library director, Ms. Jessica Hartley, for her efforts in assisting Benji with preparing the slideshow for tonight. So that being said, Benji, the floor is yours.
Mayor, members of council, Madam Clerk, Mr. City Attorney. I was going to begin my presentation by thanking Jessica, because I wouldn't be here without her assistance. And also Miss Christina Staples. She helped with the slide of what I had come to call the 6 great patents that form Poquoson. And they have entrusted me with this laser pointer, and I hope I don't put him by his eyes out with it, so I will try to point it like a gun away from everybody. And I'm going to pretend I'm in the Supreme Court and set my timer, because I know y'all have a busy night. Also, I've placed at your place a aerial photograph from 1937 that Michael Combs, who is our district conservationist with the United States Department of Agriculture, and he was kind enough to give me that. And I'll have a slide of it, but I think if y'all are like me, the more you look at it, the more interesting it becomes, because you'll see just how much our city has changed since 1937. So, Jessica, if you would start with the first one, switch back and forth between my spectacles and my reading. I tried to perfect my Cary Grant move to do that, but never got there. This is the Boar Quarter in the Big Marsh, and that's one of the great patents. And this is all from Mr. Vincent Watkins' book, The History of Poquoson. And the Boar Quarter in Great Marsh was about 1,700 acres. And I can't tell you the acreage of each grant because I just don't have confidence in it. I can eventually do it, but it's going to take a lot of arithmetic because they would divide it up into smaller parcels so quickly. So that's the first one. Could you go to the black walnut neck? That's black walnut, or in my Bull Island brogue, what I always heard it called is black walnut. So that was another patent, one of the first. And then the third is Tinkershear's neck, which we call Tinchy Point. That's shown there. Then there's Football Quarter, which is there. And then Oxford Plantation, which is here, which is the smallest of the original grants. And I know the exact acreage of that is 505 acres. And it went, as you can see, from the creek north to just about Hudgens Road, and then into the big woods, almost to Carey's Chapel Road. And then the final one was the Back Creek plantations, which were a number. You can see the subdivisions of those. And that's all down at Hunts Neck and everything on Bennett's Creek to the west of Bennett's Creek. Now, to talk about Oxford, there were three brothers, James Smith, Levin Smith, and Henry Smith, and they came to York County from Accomack County in the 1800s. They were merchants and they traded under the name of James Smith and Company. Henry Smith settled on Back River by buying Oxford Plantation. Levin Smith settled on Poquoson River, and Levin's progeny accumulated great land holdings in the lower part of York County. Through marriage and purchase, Levin Smith's progeny accumulated land on the north side of Victory Boulevard, stretching from the city line to Calthrop's Neck and extending inland to the Tabb Library YMC complex. The Greenlands development there is on land that was formerly owned by Levin Smith's descendants. Henry's eldest brother, James Smith, appears often in the York County records, but it doesn't appear that James Smith and his family ever resided in York County. Henry Smith married Martha Presson in 1819. Martha's father, Robert, was a wealthy planter and had plantations in both York and Warwick counties. On November the 14th, 1833, Henry Smith purchased 505 acres from Angus and Jane Martin of Norfolk for $1,300. The purchase was financed for 5 years by the execution of 5 notes in the amount of $400 each. The debt was secured by a deed of trust, and Levin Smith, Henry's brother, was the surety and guarantor for repayment. Mr. Vincent opined that the price that Henry paid for the plantation was high, and I surmise this was due to the fact that the seaward perimeter of the plantation was diked. It went all the way from Wythe Creek to Oxford Run. And Ashlin Plantation was comprised of the lands that were formerly Oxford Plantation. Shortly after he purchased the property in 1834, Henry Smith and Robert Hudgens, who owned Chesterville Plantation across the creek in Elizabeth City County, petitioned the General Assembly to permit the construction of a tide mill to grind grain. And this is what the petition said. During the summer and fall months, meal is not to be had except at very high prices, and the poor are frequently without bread, not having the means or the money to buy. In a country so low, flat, and level as that of your petitioners, where the streams are supplied by rain and not by springs as in mountainous countries, the few windmills are by no means adequate. Your petitioners are confident that the tide mill can remedy this under proper management, as the ebb and flow of the tide will always afford a power sufficient for the operation. The General Assembly granted the petition. The mill was constructed and operated until the Civil War. One of the millstones is on the farm adjacent to Ashlin Farm, Dr. Maxwell and Sally Maxwell's farm, and the other millstone lies at the bottom of the creek, and it's on my bucket list to try and get that one day. The creek that the tidal mill was built upon has always been the southern boundary of Oxford Plantation and Ashlin Plantation, and it's known as Wythe Creek. It was named after the Wythe family who settled and owned Chesterville Plantation in Elizabeth City County. Chesterville was the birthplace of George Wythe, signer of the Declaration of Independence and the first American professor of law. The Marshall Wythe School of Law, the College of William and Mary, bears his name. Benjamin Sims owned land adjacent to Chesterville. When he died in 1634, he donated 200 acres and 8 cows for a free school to educate and teach the children of the adjoining parishes of Elizabeth City and Poquoson, from Marie's Mount downward to Poquoson River. I had to do some research to determine where Marie's Mount was, because I'd never heard that. But Marie's Mine was a plantation, Newport News Point, where the coal piers are. It was settled in 1621 by Daniel Gookin and 55 others from County Cork in southwest Ireland. So if you consider the area served by the free school, if you draw a line from Newport News Point down to Harwood Mill, it's basically everything to the east of Route 17. Much larger area than I ever thought. I just thought it was Poquoson and Hampton. Could you bring up the Google map, please? Okay, well, this is good. This is an artist rendering by Peggy Moore of the Manor House of Ashlin Plantation. And you can see Peggy's signature down at the bottom, and you may not know, Peggy is married to C.L. Moore, whose father was Carroll Moore, who was my grandfather's brother. But Peggy won the design for the city seal, and the city seal is Peggy Moore's design. So that's her artistic representation of the Manor House. Now let's try and go to the Google Maps. Okay, this will give us a little bit of perspective. You see the big block is our Ashlin Farm there. The tide mill is below that. That's where the tide mill was on the bend in that creek. George Wyth's birthplace is down on the NASA ground. We'll get to that in a minute. And you see I've asked them to show school point and jump point. The Benjamin Sims Free School was on that neck of land adjacent to Chesterfield. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but this is my speculation. It's always been called School Point. It's always been called Jump Point. We know School Point was the point that led to the free school. And it's my opinion, without any foundation other than common sense, that Jump Point is named because that's where the Poquoson's children went to jump or take a boat over to School Point and then walk to the free school. There's no other reason that I'm aware of that it's named Jump Point. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Chesterville Plantation was advertised for sale in the Philadelphia Inquirer newspaper on February 4th, 1795. And this is 40-some years before Henry Smith bought Oxford. But I think it gives some context to how land was sold at that time. The plantation was said to have 920 acres by survey, 477 being cleared land, ditched in 50-acre lots, 233 acres in woods, and 200 acres in, quote, fine grazing marsh, capable of producing the best salt marsh hay and supporting 200 to 300 head of cattle through the winter. In addition to the 920 acres of Chesterville Plantation, about 4 acres of dry marshland owned by the free school that was adjacent to Chesterville had been leased by Chesterville for £31 and 5 shillings per year. Including with the sale were about 80 head of cattle and horses, 150 sheep and hogs, and some Negroes. The plantation was advertised for sale at 65 shillings per acre. And Henry Smith's ledger from his business books show that at that time, 20 shillings made a pound, an English pound. Finally, the advertisement references a wharf and a granary 28 feet by 60 foot at which vessels of 60 tons may load for transport by water to the Norfolk markets. I had no idea what a 60-ton vessel in the late 1700s would be by dimensions, but Dr. Paul Ewell, who's a lecturer with the Mariners Museum, who will be giving a lecture here at the library in a couple of weeks, was kind enough to respond to an email, and he said that in 1795, a typical vessel of 60 tons would have been a schooner about 55 feet long on deck with a 16-foot beam and a draft of 5 feet light and 7 feet loaded. And you might think that it's inconceivable that a vessel of that size could navigate Wythe Creek today, but in the 1940s, my Uncle Dick, who was actually a cousin, but as many Southerners do, he was called Uncle, and he was a son of Henry Smith's daughter, Emma, and he lived on the farm south of us, which Dr. Maxwell and Sally own now. He would routinely bring ocean-going trawlers into the creek, and I talked with Henry Freeman and Felton Graham, who said they were approximately 60 feet and had the same draft. So it was possible for ocean-going vessels to come in because Uncle Dick carried cargo to Baltimore and then ultimately took them out into the sea and went fishing. There's more money in it. And his daughter, Mildred Martin, told me that when her father, Uncle Dick, would come back, they'd round Tinchy Point, and of course they had to play the tide, but he would blow the ship's whistle to let them know he was on the way home and would be home shortly. And I wanted to point out that Wythe Creek, if you can put it back on the, you see where the tide mill was. Henry Smith also had a brick kiln, and he had a clay pit immediately adjacent to where the tide mill was. And I remember the clay pit had wonderful clay. I mean, it was sticky. If you wouldn't want to step in it, you wouldn't get out. And he made bricks that he used on the plantation. And for that reason, a secondary name of Wythe Creek is Brick Kiln Stream. I love this name, Victorious Christmas, patented Oxford Plantation in 1639, and then Peter Starkey, who owned land up and down Poquoson, added to it in 1655, and that became Oxford Plantation and was eventually acquired by Henry Smith in 1833. And as I've told you about the boundaries of the plantation. And Henry was familiar with the practice on the eastern shore of protecting the arable land from storm tides, and he improved the existing dikes around the entire seaward perimeter of the plantation. And certain portions of the dikes are parallel, and my theory is he fell back and built a secondary dike because the original dike that was built kept overflowing by the tide. So he fell back, built a higher dike, and those dikes are still in existence and being maintained. They had what were called trunks, which were wooden boxes in each corner, the lower portions, and when the wind would go to the east and the tide would rise, they would stuff the wooden boxes with rags, and that would keep the tide from coming in under the dike and poisoning the arable land. And when the tide went back out and settled down, they'd pull the rags out, and that would allow the rainwater to drain out rather than sit on the land. I've tried to replicate that by, obviously the wooden trunks are long gone, but 4-inch PVC pipes with screw caps works pretty much the same way. R. Henry Smith was my great-great-grandfather, and on the plaque that we'll show in a minute, he and Martha had 6 children, one of whom died without issue. So when Martha died in 1850, after 31 years of marriage, Henry had a brick mausoleum constructed on the high ground near the manor house. And although he had a brick kiln on the plantation, Henry went to the expense of bringing bricks from Norfolk to construct the mausoleum. And Jessica, there it is. And to be honest, it's in pretty doggone good shape for being almost 200 years old. And if you could go to the next slide showing the plaque. These are the individuals that are interred in first was obviously Henry Smith's wife, Martha Crescent Smith. The next was Frances Topping Watkins, and I asked Mopey, I'm sorry, I said, who is Frances Topping Watkins? And he said, she was a dear friend of Martha Smith, and you can see she died within a year after Martha, so Henry allowed her to be interred in the mausoleum. Then Henry Smith Jr., which is Robert Henry Smith, was Henry's son. He died before his father in '64. Henry died in '66. And then Henry Smith Jr.'s sister, Sarah Smith Curtis, came back down and wanted to be interred, her body interred on the home plantation. And Walter Martin was the last person to be interred in 1881. And as you can see from his birth date, he and Henry Smith were close friends, and we believe he might have been the overseer or worked on the plantation, and that's why he was buried inside the mausoleum. Henry Smith was a merchant, a waterman, and a farmer. He had a vessel named Pet, and he routinely carried farm products from the plantation in Norfolk and returned with goods for sale. We have an actual bill of lading for the Pet, which showed the following that was bought from W.R. Norris of Norfolk. 1 sack of fine salt, $2. 1 pound of twine, 31 cents. 1 barrel of whiskey, 43.5 gallons at 25 cents a gallon. The total cost for the barrel of whiskey was $11.31, and the total bill of lading totaled $13.62. During the winter of 1857 and 58, there was a severe cold snap from December 23rd until January 27th. And many, many years later, in an article in the Virginia Gazette, it quoted entries that Henry Smith had made in his diary about that weather. And I'll paraphrase it. Back River was frozen solid, as was the entire bay. The snow was 7 feet deep, and it drifted over the tops of fences. Men could walk across the Chesapeake Bay. Henry Smith's vessel, Pet, was trapped in the ice some distance from the manor house after returning from Norfolk. The diary recites that he and a slave took a horse cart over the ice to the vessel trapped. Once at the boat, they loaded a barrel of flour and a large amount of groceries and returned to the manor house without making a track on the ice. Now, I was growing up, I quickly learned that there was a difference of opinion among the family members concerning this event, and the difference of opinion was distinctly split between male and female genders. And to put it in perspective, as early as 1854, Yorktown voters had submitted a petition to the General Assembly asking the legislature to prohibit the sale of, quote, ardent spirits and intoxicating liquors throughout the Commonwealth. This was in 1854, so the temperance movement was certainly alive and well in the mid-1800s. But it's also obvious from the bill of lading that Henry Smith traded in whiskey, and perhaps he was reluctant to record for posterity the bringing of such a large quantity of intoxicating liquor to the manor house. But at the same time, Henry Smith was a successful businessman, and it would have been quite imprudent, if not reckless, to leave such a valuable cargo unprotected out in the middle of the river. The bill of lading clearly indicates that Henry bought whiskey wholesale and sold it retail. Nevertheless, the women folk of the family were adamant that the barrel retrieved from the Pet contained flour, but the men folk never disputed this contention directly with the women, but when they were out of the hearing of the women, they adamantly maintained just as strongly that the barrel brought home was whiskey. So it's lost in history as to which was correct, but they all agreed that Once the barrel and groceries arrived at the manor house, a good time was had by all. Henry Smith and Martha had 3 children, Sidney Smith, Robert Henry Smith, and Sarah Elizabeth Smith. Robert Henry Smith is identified as Henry Smith Jr. on the plaque. Sidney Smith was a surveyor, a lawyer, and became a judge in York County. He's buried in the Bruton Parish Cemetery in Williamsburg. Surprisingly, Judge Armistead showed me this when I was in his evidence class in law school. It's a smaller, exact replica of the mausoleum that's on the plantation that Sidney Smith, Judge Smith, and his wife are buried in up in Williamsburg. As shown from the map, the cemetery is about a quarter mile to the north through the woods from Ashlin Farm today. Henry Smith Jr. and his wife, Rosanna Bunting Smith, had 6 children, one of whom was my great-grandmother, Lucetta. Lucetta married Stephen Moore, came from the Poquoson riverside of Poquoson, and they had 5 children, one of which was my grandfather, Benjamin Stephen Moore. When Lucetta died in 1919, her property was surveyed and divided among her surviving children by lot. My grandfather traded his lots with his siblings to assemble the tract that is today Ashlin Farm. There are 5 lots in the front field and 5 lots in the back field that show that he assembled those from his brothers and sisters. You might not know that during this time period, after the plantation was divided, one of the heirs established a horse track. And I won't mention his name because he seems to be a little bit of a black sheep. But as best we can tell, the horse track was in the big woods, somewhere in the vicinity of the villas, or perhaps beyond the villas toward the Legacy. Somewhere in that area was the horse track. Unfortunately, the entrepreneur gambler wasn't good at either, and he fell into financial ruin, and he had to tear down the old manor house to sell the brick, and then he moved out of Poquoson to Hampton. Ashlin Farm presently consists of approximately 60 acres, more or less, 20 acres, more or less, in highland and 40 acres in marsh. All the highland, but for the area occupied by the residences, is utilized for agriculture. Roughly 10 acres of the marsh is fenced to the creek to provide grazing for cattle. And if you can show the pictures of the cattle, please, Jessica. There is a picture showing my magnificent herd of red Angus with our house in the background and the red barn to the far right that my grandfather built that I had put on a solid foundation. Arthur Banks did that for me, and we raised it and put it on a solid foundation. It was on brick piers. And then you would go to the next one. And this shows my 4 red Angus grazing on the marsh with the Lunar Lander in the background. And although I find the cattle love the salt marsh grass because it turns green earlier than the highland grass, I doubt that it would support 200 or 300 head of cattle, but maybe I'm just not a good enough farmer as I should be. And as you all know, we were fortunate for the governor and the commissioner of agriculture to designate us a century farm in December. Very proud of that, and very happy that y'all asked me to speak on the history. Oh, one thing I would, the Hampton sold the free school, and they used the money as an endowment that I think the Hampton schools still draw upon. So maybe the city attorney could ask for an accounting, because I think we're due some of that money. But thank you all very much for the opportunity to give you a little bit of history of what I remember.
Benji, that was fascinating. Thank you so much for being with us.
27 minutes.
Yes. You were spot on. Thank you again, Benji. We enjoyed it. Thank you again, Jessica. Appreciate your contributions. We will move on to item 2 for the work session. And this is a council discussion on a pickleball conditional use permit. And the way we normally handle work sessions is just for discussion among council members. And there's no opportunity for public comment or audience for visitors and the like. This pickleball conditional use permit, of course, we've been dealing with since the beginning of this year. At first glance, when I first heard about it back at the beginning of the year, I thought a pickleball CUP, that should be a pretty straightforward issue. Can't imagine that being too difficult, but without a doubt, it's turned into the most difficult situation that I've been faced with in my 14th year. Between staff and the planning commission and the city council, well, we've had numerous work sessions, audience for visitors, public hearings, and had a great many individual discussions among council members. And after doing so, I quickly realized that my fellow council members were struggling with this to the same extent that I was. And after I share my comments, what I'd like to do is just be consistent with the way we normally handle work sessions like this. I'll just open the floor for a council discussion, and we won't have any rigid format. We'll just think out loud. We felt like it was important for us to do that in public so we could come together. Most of the, well, other than during called public meetings, we're forbidden by law from talking or being in two or more in each other's presence. So we have to speak individually. So opportunities like this give us a chance to speak to each other, hear what each other has to say while we are in each other's presence. And it's also important for the public to know where we stand on matters such as this as well. But just to provide the context on where we are now, and we also intend for this discussion to be candid. Of course, we'll go about this with all due respect and courtesy to all involved, of course. One of the things that has bothered me more than anything else about this particular issue is it being a conditional use permit. It's fairly routine. We've dealt with several of them during my time on council, and currently we have 2 under consideration right now. But the point I wanted to make is it's not a court case. It is a conditional use permit consideration. And not being a legal professional, I don't know a whole lot about how the court system works or how court cases work. My knowledge is very limited, but I do know a little bit about how local government is supposed to work. And that process is for constituents to be able to speak, communicate directly with their elected representatives. And in this case, it appears to me that process has been circumvented. We've only heard directly from one person that is in opposition. We've heard directly, of course, from the couple that are requesting the CUP and one additional person in support. And when I say hear directly from, I mean right here in council chambers speaking directly to us. It disappoints me, and I hope that it does not set a precedent moving forward in our otherwise close-knit community to where we should be able to communicate directly between our constituents and we as their elected representatives. Me personally, that depending on the day, I've gone back and forth as to where I stand on this. And I can sit here right now and candidly say, I can't tell you yet how I'm going to vote. I've gone back and forth, and depending on how I have leaned one way or the other, it's come down to about a 51% one way and a 49% the other way. And then that ratio has flip-flopped. Sometimes just depending on who I last talked to and their perspective. But in matters such as that, it seems to me that in the best interest of the greater good of all involved, that we look for a compromise. And just by the definition of compromise means nobody gets everything they want. Nobody's going to be 100% happy. But the beauty of that is it's something that hopefully everybody can live with. Everybody's going to have to give a little to get a little. And I think that represents good government in cases where we can arrive at that conclusion. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have this discussion tonight. By definition of a CUP, conditional use permit, it can be conditioned to suit as needed many different concerns. And it's up to our own creativity, I think, to come together and identify those conditions that best suits all involved. And I know that in neighborhoods, of course, life occurs. Life makes sound. When sound becomes noise, we have existing noise ordinances to deal with that. I know in my neighborhood, and I live at 21 Dorothy Drive, I live right through the woods from the end of Rochambeau, and I didn't look it up, but my buddy Keith, he looked it up, and my house is actually 328 feet from the proposed location of the pickleball court. It's not very far. Me personally, I have no issue whatsoever. I mean, the Shaws have been my neighbors through the woods since 2003. I've never met them until this issue came up, and just because of the separation by that little strip of woods, but they certainly take great care of their property. They've been good neighbors. They're quiet and respectful of others. The Smalls and my other neighbors through the woods on the end of Rochambeau, the same applies. It's a very nice neighborhood. I also think it's unrealistic for neighborhoods to remain in a perpetual state of silence during the day. Now, nighttime, that's different. I think it's completely reasonable to expect to have some peace and quiet. I know in my house and in my neighborhood, and I think it's pretty typical, I run my lawnmower to cut grass, I run my weed eater, my blower, my outboard motor, my generator, the dog barks sometimes, and I think I'm pretty typical to others in the neighborhood. I think that's pretty much normal to what we would hear in any typical neighborhood. And I think that part of living in a neighborhood, in a close-knit community as ours, is just in the spirit of being good neighbors, is we work with each other, we tolerate each other, we tolerate what I would characterize as maybe very minor irritations and nuisances sometimes. We're all human, but I think that's just part of being good neighbors and living with each other. Something else that occurred in our neighborhood starting 3 years ago, and I know many of y'all would be familiar with the new neighborhood that was built at the end of Darden Drive. I think it's Bull Run Phase 3. It's immediately next door to us. It's right off the end of Rochambeau, and right behind the houses on one side of Rochambeau and on one side of Valmore, of the western end of Valmore Drive. But for a 2-year period, about 28 houses were built, and every day, all day long, there was beating and banging and heavy equipment and power tools running, just all the sounds associated with a new neighborhood being built. And we got through that, and I didn't see where it was anything overwhelming. It was quiet at night, and I don't know personally if we had any complaints about that, but that's just, you know, part of what goes on from time to time that we live with. The biggest concerns that I've heard addressed are the noise, and I've talked about that and the noise ordinances and the devaluation of property. And I know that we've heard from subject matter experts that have shared their professional opinion on what a pickleball court somewhere in the neighborhood, even though it can't be seen, would cause the devaluation of property. And just to do my due diligence in the course of preparing for tonight and other conversations we've had, I mean, I've consulted with a couple of subject matter experts as well, and of course everybody has their own opinion on this. My perspective as a layman, I was having a hard time believing that a proposed pickleball court somewhere in the neighborhood would cause a property value to be reduced by $50,000 to $100,000. I mean, in this particular neighborhood, I mean, we're talking about 20% or so, roughly, of the value. So that's just one of my struggles to try to reach a conclusion. But the professionals that I consulted with assured me that they, and of course this is their opinion, they saw no reason to believe that would occur. But that's just part of what I've done to help me come to an understanding on this. And I think for right now, I've, for the most part, shared my thoughts on this. I would like to express appreciation again for all the effort that staff has put forth. I'd also like to express my appreciation to the Planning Commission for going to great lengths. They looked at this not once but twice, so we remanded this back to them, and we certainly appreciate and respect their opinion on this case. I appreciate all the conversations I've had with my fellow council members as well, and for the insight that they have provided. And hopefully after tonight, we'll all have a better idea after having shared our thoughts out loud with each other. So that's all I have for right now. So I'd just like to open the floor for my fellow council members, and again, just ask y'all to share your thoughts. So please do.
David, I'd like to jump in there.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And a lot of this is because of me. I disturbed a lot. I created a lot of dissension about it when we had the conversation, because the Planning Commission came up with the same solution a couple of times, and I personally didn't believe it. Okay, and so we have voted against the Planning Commission on a few occasions, but we don't like to often. Okay. Been a couple of times we did it. It was a good idea. Maybe a couple of times we get along with them, and that wasn't a good idea. And I'll have a further conversation about that in a little bit. But I think I made it clear at the last council meeting that, unfortunately or fortunately, whichever, I'm the oldest member of council. Okay? Okay. And I have the distinct disadvantage of having a brain that thinks it's 27 years old, okay? A heart that thinks it's 140 years old, and a body that knows the difference between the two, okay? Because of that, I've been around for a while, and I know a little bit of history, and I'm not the world's best person at history, but I do recall things, and you know, at my age, on occasion, I forget things. On occasion, have problems with remembering somebody's name, but I've always had a problem with names, and that's not new. And on occasion, I've learned that I've forgotten things because it was convenient. And so if you don't mind, I'm going to talk about a convenient loss of memory. There was a town, a city, as a matter of fact, not unlike Poquoson. And in that city was a neighborhood much like the one on Rochambeau Drive, where all the neighbors got along together. There were no issues at all. And a man moved in that neighborhood, lived there for several years, and there were no issues at all with that young man. And then it turns out that he worked at NASA, and he was a brilliant aeronautical engineer, and he had an interest in airplanes. I mean, that was his profession. And it turns out one of his neighbors was a pilot, and they were going to an air show with a friend, and both of those friends were pilots, and one of them looked like me, David, I swear he did, okay? And he said, you know what, I think if y'all are going to the air show in Florida, I'd like to go. And he went there, and he got so excited that while he was there, he bought an airplane kit. And we came home, and about 2 weeks later, this airplane kit was delivered to his house. And he started building the airplane in his garage. And next door to him, there was an attorney who lived there, and he didn't like airplanes to begin with. They made noise. And so he tried to get it arranged where that man wasn't allowed to build that airplane in his garage. And he fought that, and he wasn't able to. So the man was able to build the airplane in the garage, but then he said, well, it turned out the airplane was an amphibian. It was made for water, and it was made for land. And the young man wanted to put the airplane in his backyard and either tie it to his dock or pull it up in his yard. And then in the wintertime, was going to house it at a hangar at a local airport. Well, when he had the airplane completed, the attorney went to all the neighbors and told them how much property value they were going to use with an airplane in the neighborhood. That it was going to make noise, and everybody knew how much noise the airplane made. And he told them that he would probably be taking off at a creek, and he might have an accident, and maybe he'd have an airplane coming through the roof. And he told each one of them how much their homes were going to be devalued. And that besides that, when they were sleeping in the mornings, he'd probably be starting that airplane, and everybody knew how noisy the airplanes were. And would wake him up all the time, and Lord knows what hours he might come in and out the creek in that airplane. Well, after the neighbors found out how much noise that airplane was going to make and how much their property was going to be devaluated, there was a city council meeting somewhere about that, and the entire neighborhood showed up. I mean, everybody showed up. They did not want to lose value in the house, and they didn't want to have all that noise, despite the fact that it was a workboat type thing across the creek from them that went in and out the creek every morning with no exhaust pipes at all. Okay? And because of all the people in the neighborhood being in city council and all that noise they expected it to have, it got voted down. No, he couldn't have a conditional use permit to allow that airplane to be pulled up in his backyard. He could have the airplane, but it had to be tied in the creek. Okay? Couldn't tie it up at his pier, he couldn't bring it in the yard. Well, the young man left that city and moved to an adjacent city at the far end of that same creek. And you know what? He operated that airplane right out of there. He had it, occasionally he'd pull it up in his yard. Occasionally he'd tie it to his pier, but the neighbors' kids loved to watch that airplane take off and land every now and then. But they had to see it when it was going because you really didn't make all that noise. Airplanes are required to have mufflers, okay? And they're quiet. I mean, if you didn't see it going, you might not hear it. And the neighbors never complained about the noise. And you know what? no property values were destroyed because that airplane was in our neighborhood. As a matter of fact, in the wintertime, that airplane was stored in a hangar at a local airport. And then in the spring and summer, he was flying it there. And it turned out that airplane was pretty valuable. It was worth tens of thousands of dollars. And the new city started getting taxes from that airplane because it was a valuable airplane. It was like an automobile. It was taxed like an automobile, recreation equipment. It was worth thousands and thousands of dollars. They were getting taxes off that. And nobody lost property value and no noise made, but the man moved out of the city. And that's a shame. Now, here we have another situation that's similar. Rochambeau Drive is a nice, quiet place to live. People have lived there together for a long, long time. And the Shaws applied for a pickleball court. And initially it was okay. But then they heard that, gee whiz, I'm going to lose property value by the thousands of dollars. And it's going to make a lot of noise. And so they found out about that because an attorney approached all of them, and then it turns out he represented them. When we had a meeting about it, it'd been a similar situation, but no one showed up. There weren't the room filled with people. There were no complaints. And it turned out to be a big debate. Well, I questioned about whether or not the property value was going to be decreased. And when we had the last meeting, somehow or another I said something that maybe upset the chair lady, Ms. Schott, on the planning commission. But I couldn't understand why they didn't question the property values. And thank goodness she spent some time with me, and she told me some things I didn't know. I learned a little bit more about government. And what she told me was, you know, they weren't allowed to look at value. So they never questioned it. I'm certain the Shaws wondered why. Gee whiz, we don't think this is going to happen. But we were told they were going to lose thousands of dollars. We all got a copy of that same book. And with big equations in it about noise. You know, I studied noise at NASA. I ran a noise lab out there. And just out of curiosity, I drove out to our local pickleball court and sat in the car. Now, I couldn't hear the pickleball, but now we're hearing aids, okay? So you can't go by me. I spent a lot of years behind an airplane engine and beside them. And so I carried my wife down there. I said, "Do you hear noise?" She said, "So yeah, I'll listen quietly." She never heard it. And the Shaws played pickleball right in the driveway. And no one knew it. And it turns out that when I checked with Wally, and I checked with Randy, and I checked with the chief of police, and the city built a pickleball court. And at one time, noise was a question about that. Keith was telling me they were concerned about that in the very beginning. But do you know the city hasn't had a single complaint about pickleball noise on a commercial pickleball court where lots of people play quite often and into the night. And I went to the tax assessor's office and I asked to look at the property values there. Did you know that since we built that pickleball court, no one has lost that cent in property value? As a matter of fact, their properties have continued to go up just like everybody else's. But Mrs. Schott did tell me something. She said, well, we have to go by the rules, and there's nothing in the rules that says you can have a pickleball court in your front yard, right? And she was applying the rules that were available as far as residential lots. Well, there's no such thing as a fits-all rule. It just isn't. We've done things on city council and passed resolutions that had all the best intentions and all the right reasons, and found out, gee whiz, that didn't work really well because somebody took advantage of it. And there's no saying that everything fits all. Now, if everything would fit all if all the lots looked exactly alike. but all the lots don't look exactly alike. And because of that, what normally might be considered a front yard, it turns out to be backyard, or what might be a backyard turns out to be a front yard. Now, the Shaws live next door to people who have a swimming pool. And they've gotten along well. I've never heard anything in city council about complaints in the neighborhood about noise, but they have a light that shines directly into their front door when the people are playing in the swimming pool. And I'm certain they've had different kinds of parties and so forth, and kids have been jumping in the pool and playing, but there haven't been any complaints, and the Shaws never complained because the lights were there. And they've got along just fine. And the neighborhood was getting along just fine right there, okay, until they found out they were going to lose a whole bunch of property value and there's going to be a lot of noise. Well, it also turns out that the people that are right next door to the Smalls could build a pickleball court and didn't even have to apply for a conditional use permit. There's 2 lots behind them, and they could do the same thing. And it's questionable whether or not behind the house is enough room for the Shaws to build a pickleball court. But they did play pickleball in their front yard in the driveway, but it wasn't quite as safe because of the swales, and nobody knew that they did it. So I don't see where noise is an issue. The city, turns out, hasn't had a single complaint about noise in the public court. No one has lost property value. And when they play pickleball court in their yard, nobody hears it. And so you can play pickleball beside the Small's house. You can play pickleball behind their house in 2 lots. The Shaws could play pickleball in the driveway up against the house, but 35 feet over they can't. That makes no sense. The rules don't make any sense, then maybe the rule doesn't fit in that situation. We know that there are lots down Emmys Road, and they're pretty big lots. And the houses are close to the water. And you know what? The front yard is way out in front of the house out to Emmys Road, and the backyard is really small between the house and the water. They could easily build a pickleball court, plant a couple of trees, and no one would ever know it's there. It's not one of those lots, it's 2 or 3. Now, do I think we're going to get a lot of these cases? No. I think this is a one-off case. I don't think we'll probably never see this again. At the same time, the Shaws wanted to build a platform there. And that might make it look more like a commercial court. However, it's only one court in their yard for private use. We've got a public court that hasn't created any property value loss and no noise. They're asking for a single lot. Now, I asked for any indication where a single pickleball court in a private yard played by a family could has created any property value loss. And I haven't seen such a document. I don't think any of y'all have received one. If you did, you need to share it. And so I think that if they built the pickleball court there and didn't build a platform, I think they'd play pickleball. The neighbors would never know it unless maybe the people right adjacent next door walked in their backyard and then looked over. They might see it. In the wintertime, they might see it when the foliage goes, but the Shaws have offered to plant greenery. And so it doesn't pass the common sense test. Now, I'm going to tell you, when it comes time to vote for this next time, I'm going to recommend that we pass it because it makes common sense and it fits the rules. I'm also going to add in there that we change the conditions on the conditional use permit to not be a platform there. And I honestly believe when they build their pickleball court, they'll play pickleball and they'll enjoy it. And Mr. Shaw's going to find out something I found out a while back. My brain keeps forgetting it, but Knees won't work like they used to, arms don't work like they used to, and they probably won't play pickleball as often as much as they think they will, okay? That turned out to be the case when I built my swimming pool. And so, I think they should be allowed to build that pickleball court. I don't think it's gonna change property value one iota, and I don't think the neighbors will even know it's there. And after all is said and done, if they still want to build a platform, they can talk to their neighbors and maybe work out a deal on a conditional use permit. But for now, no. So I'm going to tell you up front, I'm going to vote for it. And I'm going to suggest that the condition be that they don't build a platform. And I'll spend enough of your time. Thanks.
My turn. Councilman Southall and I talked about this a couple months ago, and the discussion was on this planning commission versus city council.
Yes.
And I've only been on the council for 4 years now, and I know one of the major decisions we made was against the council that Councilwoman Emmett was on at the time, that approved 4-0 the storage building. And we approved it 7-0. I was relatively new to the concept of us having decision-making process for that kind of thing. I went back and forth like what the mayor was just saying. And as the vote was coming up, I was sitting here going, don't call on me first, don't call on me first. And they called on me first, as luck would have it. And the vote is as the vote is. And I know Councilman Emmett and I discussed the fact that we disagreed. And I'll say one thing that probably will or may not make sense to anybody is we'll agree with the planning commission. I will agree with the planning commission sometimes. I will disagree with them sometimes. But when I feel that they have made their point, yeah, I'm all in favor. There were certain things I saw with the storage building that I didn't looked at by the planning commission, and if I remember correctly, there were only 4 members present that particular night. 7. So a little bit of difference there. When we get down to talking about what the planning commission said, what the planning commission didn't say, weighs heavily on my mind now, because we have some good people on there. Well, we have all good people on there. They all make good decisions. And when we start talking about this, and then we're going to start talking about in the not too distant future about a gun range, I know how they have said what they said. I wrote down notes from back in the June meeting. Just a little note at the top of my paper. I said, I don't care about disturbing deer. I guess that came up. I don't really care about property values, because so much can change. It has nothing to do with the pickleball, just based on the economy and things like that. Just look at your own personal properties, and everybody knows they go up, they go down, they go up. Eventually, they all go way up. I do, however, care about noise. I care about neighbor opinions. And from the neighbor opinion position, it's kind of like, we don't have people for it and we don't have people against it. We have one person for it, which is the owner, who wants to build the thing. We have some people against it, and then we have a bunch of people that really don't care. And so I dismiss the really don't care. Well, whatever, go ahead, do what you want. It doesn't bother me. So when it comes to that, I put a little more weight on those that get to live with it as versus the one person that wants it. I also do, and I care about the work and the opinion of the planning commission. And our planning commission voted for it not once, or against it not once, but twice, unanimously both times. We asked them, I did not want, as a matter of fact, I voted against sending it back to them, remanding it back to them, and but I was outvoted 1-6. And surprise, it came back with the same answer. So I can't ignore listening to, in this case, the planning commission not once, but twice, as to what their decision process was. Regarding pickleball itself, I don't play pickleball. I have 2 fake knees, and questionable whether it'd be smart to go out and do something like that. However, my wife has been playing pickleball for about 3.5 or 4 years now. She does it for the social aspect, not just the playing aspect. She likes pickleball, she plays pickleball, and while we're sitting here right now, she's at Emmaus Baptist Church teaching pickleball to some youth for their summer programs. So I see both sides of it. But I also, like says, I look at the planning commission, all the work that they have done, and again, not once, but twice, came up with the same decision. So that's kind of where I stand.
And I'll share that if you don't mind a little dialogue, okay?
No.
I did not understand, and I think I said it earlier, that they did not consider the property value loss. Now, I'm going to tell you, and this is Bud's opinion. This is totally Bud's opinion. I think the neighbors didn't have a problem until they thought they were going to lose thousands of dollars in property value. But the planning commission was not allowed to look at that. And when I talked to Mrs. Shaw, okay, I found out, I asked her, I said, well, why didn't you ask questions about the planning commission? Because that's probably what set the neighbors off, that they found out they're going to lose all kinds of value and there's going to be terrible noise. But they weren't allowed to consider that. And so they went strictly by the rules. And the rules don't fit everything every time. And so we can, as usual, okay, on this council, thank goodness, we can agree to disagree on that point. But they didn't show up. I haven't seen any of them here. But when that airplane situation came up, you know what? Every one of the neighbors came. Now, they have an attorney here who's representing them, but that's not quite the same thing. I promise you, that when the airplane situation came up, the attorney was there. He was leading the forefront, but goodness gracious, that room was crammed full of the neighbors who were upset. I haven't seen one, not one. I've heard one opinion, and that's the one that all described.
And one thing regarding the noise, just like we're going to hear again with the gun range, the noise is not the thing. It's not the volume. It's the kind of noise. It's the staccato beat. I was driving back from Atlanta with my wife, and I was sitting there thinking about this. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I do with driving. And I just started going. I did it one time here in council. I got this look from my wife, just like I got from you that one time. And what are you doing? I said, playing pickleball. Because that's the sound. It's not how loud it is. It's that little constant staccato type thing that is an irritant to some. It's kind of like dripping water at night you're trying to sleep, a ticking clock, something like that. You know, someone breathing heavily, called snoring. That's the kind of thing that people don't like. That's the noise. It has nothing really to do with the volume. I mean, jet airplanes fly over the house all the time. After 30 seconds, they're gone and continue the conversation. But with that constant click, 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 it drives some people kind of crazy.
I understand. There's some frequencies that are much more irritating than others, right? But at the same time, the pickleball courts in the city will make the same frequencies of noise that theirs will, except a lot less of it because there's going to be less people playing. And there are people who are closer to the pickleball court in the city or to the Shaw's property. And the city hasn't had a single complaint, not to Wally, not to Randy, and not to the police department. We have not had a single noise about the irritating frequency. So maybe it would to somebody, but so far no one in the city has complained about the commercial one.
There's only one house near the pickleball courts.
But thank you for allowing me to agree to disagree, okay? That's the one thing about this city, okay?
Yep.
You'll have an opinion and Kerry will have another one. Sometimes Kerry's right.
And
Not all.
And I will say this, I've been on the council 4 years,
But-
and this is the most I've heard by
He is so far left. Okay.
I have nothing further to add.
Well, in the interest of time, I'll go. I share a lot of concerns, and David knows when we've spoken that when the Planning Commission has seen something twice, and even when we're like, why did you guys come up with that decision? Why? did. And we've asked them and we've appointed them to struggle, especially when I disagree. So I too have a story. It'd be a quick one. We were the first people who lived on Valmore Drive. I turned 5 in my house. It was woods. 1988 is when our neighbors started moving in. I was in high school. I graduated high school in 87. I babysat on that street. I walked through a lot of the houses they were being built, ripped a lot of orange tags off of trees because I wanted to slow it down. The things kids do. Yeah, that was me, and all my friends. So, it was very quiet where we grew up, and now we have people right on the other side of the ditch that had been a dry creek bed, and that ditch runs all the way down to y'all's house. The people right on the other side have a pool and lots of grandkids, and we're constantly like, oh my word. So we get noise, and we get irritant from noise from people just having a great time, but they're having a great time. And I get that. But I also remember for about 20 years, a house on Rochambeau having every single light known to man lighting up their front yard with lots of noise and cars driving through the area for the season and not just the week. Everyone loves Christmas decorations. And everyone loves a good cause, Toys for Tots. And especially when you send an invitation out to all your neighbors to say, hey, why don't you come to our Christmas party so you won't complain, right? And it was fun. I mean, it was kind of a neat house. But boy, those lights and the sounds, constant. And it was your daddy and your mama. And now you're complaining about lights on a pickleball court that are angled down. So for me, that's a struggle. That's a struggle. It's the inconsistency. It's not a legal case, as David has mentioned, and yet we have been forbidden to speak freely with our own constituents. Debbie and I, we live in the Western Precinct along with David. And I would love to have talked to my neighbors to say, really, what's going on? So the few opportunities that we've had to engage one-way communication during previous meetings. We had a neighbor on Jefferson Court who was like, dude, let them have a pickleball court. And other neighbors, the ones next door, who had changed their vote at some point and then were represented and therefore prevented from being able to speak with us when just asked questions. I have a problem with that. So to your point, where you were saying you got people who disagree with the idea, and then you discount people who support it. Well, if he lives in my neighborhood and I'm for it, I don't really have any buy-in because I'm not going to be over there playing pickleball. So the fact that I might sign and say, yeah, this is good, you're discounting that.
Yes.
I don't understand. But that's okay. That's your opinion.
Because they don't care.
They have no objection and they aren't going to say no. Walking out from picnic in the park. On the way in, I went with my son who's 28. There is no concern that that man can hear very well. Walking in with my husband, there is some question on whether or not he can hear well. And me, totally objective. And we're walking in and people are playing pickleball over court and we're on the gravel in. I was like, that's what they're talking about? That's the problem? Now, granted, it was two folks who are probably pretty new to pickleball. So they were probably chasing the ball more than, playing chase the ball instead of playing pickleball. You know how that is. And then on the way out, and I commented to my husband and my son on the way in, I was like, did you guys hear that? And Paul, of course, was like, I didn't hear nothing. Joel, of course, is like, oh, yeah, I heard it. It sounded like fun. I mean, what is that? Is that tennis? It doesn't look like tennis. I'm like, no. And so we had a conversation. And on the way out, I neglected but Joel was paying very close attention. And he's like, Mom, that does not bug me. That is nothing compared to our neighbors with their lawnmower out at 7 o'clock on Sunday morning. I was like, okay, what if it was constant? What if it was every morning? Would that bother you then if they were doing it every morning? He's like, to him, that was not an issue. And I was like, okay. Well, we parked our car right there on the circle. Didn't hear. Second we got in the car, couldn't hear a thing. So those are my thoughts and why I think that I'm going to vote yes no matter what.
I'll have a little dialogue with you on that too, because you said something that made me think of something else. You mentioned the lights, okay? And in the Shaws, like I said, they have the lights of the neighbor's pool shining right in front of the house.
You did
okay?
mention that.
And that neighborhood is done just fine for a long time. Not been an issue,
yeah.
and it's quiet, okay? But I'm gonna tell you that every year for about a month, okay, close to a month, if not a month, the Smalls put up a Christmas display. And there's lights that light across the street, okay? And everybody loves it, okay? I do. I've been there to look at it many times. I brought friends to say, look, isn't that pretty, okay? But I'm gonna tell you, those lights, not only that they shine in the neighbors' yards, okay, it brings in a ton of traffic. Okay? I've been there when we had a hard time turning around. I've turned around in the Shaw's driveway. I've turned around in the Small's driveway and had to wait my turn to do it.
Because there's no cul-de-sac.
Okay? And with all that traffic, none of the neighbors complain, okay? Not one. The neighborhood gets along fine, okay? And I honestly believe the situation is about loss of property value and all that noise. And so I think pickleball court or no pickleball court, the neighborhood's gonna get along just fine, okay? I'm glad the Smalls put up that Christmas display, and I don't mind getting tied up in the traffic, okay? I enjoy looking at it, and they celebrate that military, okay? That's a great thing. But it does create a problem for the entire neighborhood, but not a complaint. Shaws haven't complained about it that I know of. I've never heard a complaint come to city council, okay? Does it mess up the neighborhood at night, and do people come down that street late into the night, turn around looking at the Christmas display? They do. And I hope you continue that, okay? Because it's absolutely beautiful. But the neighborhood will make out fine, they'll do just fine.
I think everybody made really good points. I'll just say, I know that this is a unique property. I feel that the Shaws have done their due diligence to try to mitigate any impact, and I feel as though going through this process, through a conditional use process, to put conditions on that use will create less of an impact than if they were using their driveway or if they had it elsewhere on the property, because through this process, they're going to be time restricted, and they are working to ensure that there's more landscaping and a visual buffer. And by going through this process, I really think that is going to put more restrictions on that will help mitigate any impacts. And I do understand and I value that is a quiet neighborhood. I think that there were some great points made about just neighborhood noise and kids' noise, or basketball hoops and things like that. And there's no HOA, there's no homeowners association in that neighborhood, right? There's no.
No, there isn't.
Yeah.
They did try.
So if you do want some of those restrictions, I do think that somewhere with a homeowners association or something might be a better fit. I do think it is a quiet neighborhood. I think that having those restrictions that these conditions will put on will be more beneficial than just having a pickleball court in the driveway. And that's all I've got.
I have been to the Shaw's property 2 or 3 times during this process. One time, the first time I went out with Councilwoman Hubbard, we spent a long time there. We walked the driveway, we talked to the Shaws. The Shaws played pickleball in the driveway. We got to hear it. I am being told to speak in the microphone. Here we go. I will start over so everyone hears me in the audience. I have visited the Shaw's property, I think 2 or 3 times, 3 times I believe during this time. And the first time was with Councilwoman Hubbard, and we walked outside, we talked to the Shaws for an extended period of time. They played pickleball in the driveway, we listened, and we walked the property, looked where it was going to be, looked at the backyards of adjacent property where other neighbors could possibly put in a pickleball court, and it'd be right there in the Shaw's yard. I walk the neighborhood, the new Bull Run section, and I can see Mr. Small's backyard and the backyard that backs up to his backyard where possibly a pickleball court could be, and it would be very close to him. I also went out to the Shaw's property with Councilwoman Emmett, and we even monitored the sound while the Shaws played pickleball. And Councilwoman Emmett, walked out to the street with monitor. They played for an extended amount of time, and I believe there may have been someone using a blower that day, if I remember that correct, and that, of course, the noise was louder than what they were playing pickleball. So I, too, have been back and forth many times. I'm appreciative of Mr. Southall bringing his common sense approach. Sometimes we look at things, we try to be very objective, and we get lost in, the common sense. And I think that's what has brought me to the point where I can finally say, I've been for this most of the time. That 51-49 that the mayor was talking about, I've always been 51 for it. But then, depending on who you talk to and what they say, the last time you listen, it kind of went back and forth. But when you get down to it, the common sense of it, their property is very unique. Where they're going to have this pickleball court, there's others in that neighborhood that could have one in the backyard, and it's going to be closer than what theirs is going to be, the way their backyard is, the way their lot is situated. It's actually going to be in the side of their yard. It's not right in front of their house. I think it's going to be very unnoticeable once they put the green in that they're going to plant. I think the noise will not really be an issue, no more than someone playing basketball or the kids in the pool. As far as the property goes, I don't think, I'm certainly not a real estate agent or anyone an expert in that, but I don't think it's going to devalue property from what I've seen when I go to look at houses or buy a house. I think someone having a swimming pool in their yard, not that it's going to devalue it, but if I'm going to look at a property and I'm not interested in a swimming pool and you have this in-ground pool in your backyard that is going to be very expensive to fill up, that may turn you off faster than having a pickleball court in your yard. It just depends on, what your tastes are, and I think that there's no issue with that worry about it devaluing or turning people off in the neighborhood if they go to look at a house beside the Shaws, and I don't think they're not going to be interested in the house that they're looking at just because the Shaws have a pickleball court. I think this is one of those cases where you hope and pray you're making the right decision, and only time will tell. As Councilman Southall told his story about the airplane. So at this time, I'm that 51 right now is yes. I am for approving that at this time. Thank you.
Do we have any further comments from council members? I certainly appreciate everybody's dialogue and respectful discussions. It's a pleasure to work with such a wonderful group of people. And as I said earlier, we intentionally planned this work session for tonight in order to do our due diligence. We're not going to vote on it tonight. We're going to take another 4 weeks to digest what we've heard tonight, further contemplate. We'll be talking individually amongst ourselves, I'm sure, because we do work very closely together and we get along great. And I can say everybody I'm seated with at the dais I consider to be a dear friend. So it's a pleasure on my part. But we'll come back in 4 weeks at the August 11th meeting, prepared to take a vote on this. Between now and then, as I alluded to earlier with the conditional use permit, we might make some adjustments to the conditions to try to find that way that everybody gives a little, so everybody gets a little. Try to find that compromise that everybody can live with. So, not hearing any further comments, so thank you again, everybody. And in about 4 minutes, we'll call the regular session to order. So thank you very much. Good evening. Welcome to all. This Poquoson City Council meeting is called to order. If y'all would please rise, I'll lead us in the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Lord Jesus, we come to you in prayer tonight to thank you for this day and the opportunity to be together as we work together for the greater good of those that we serve. So thankful, Lord, for the relationships that you bless. Help us to lean on each other as we deliberate the decisions. Please guide us, lead us, and direct us in the way we should go, and help us to be patient, thoughtful, considerate of all involved. We're thankful for the freedom and the liberty that we so enjoy. Help us to always be mindful of those that have served and sacrificed on our behalf in support of the lifestyle that we enjoy. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to item C on the agenda, that's the audience for visitors. So we'll open the floor for public comment on matters related to the city. The first speaker we have tonight is Mr. Robert Small. Welcome, Mr. Small.
Thank you. Nice to be back again. Absolutely wonderful to listen to the historical presentation you guys had earlier. The reason I came back tonight is because you had requested that I search to find another situation similar to the Shaws where they were requesting the installation of a pickleball court. So I came tonight to report the results of that search. Upon reflecting on the best way to do it, I decided that the best way to do it was to send a FOIA request, a Freedom of Information Act request, to Hampton, York County, Poquoson, and Newport News. The results of that FOIA request, all four of them, is that no one other than the Shaws have applied to install a pickleball court in a residential district in any of those cities. There was one 311 call to the city of Newport News asking about such a thing, but nothing was ever followed up on that as of now. So the simple fact is that no other jurisdiction has ever been presented with this issue, and it's not been authorized or allowed in any other jurisdiction as we stand here today. So I just wanted to make sure, sir, that I reported back to you since you had asked for that information.
Appreciate
that. And then I appreciate your kind comments on the decorations that we do about.
You do a fine job, sir.
But I also wanted to point out that the Toys for Tots function that we used to run every year, we've never had a complaint. We've never had anyone question it. It was, my father was a 38-year veteran, not a Marine, but as he said, the Army didn't come up with a good idea, the Marines did. So we adopted. And over those years, we were praised by the Marine Corps for the quality and quantity of the toys we collected every year. In fact, the last year we did it, and we had to stop because my mother came down with cancer. But she didn't want to stop. We did, because she couldn't be exposed to all the people. But the bottom line is, the last year we did it, we had a new lieutenant colonel from the Marine Corps who showed up with a pickup truck. 2 hours later, he ordered 3 deuce and a halves to come and get all the toys. So we thank the city for allowing us to do that all those years, and we appreciate your comments about the lights. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Small. Appreciate it. Next speaker is Mr. Greg Shaw. Welcome, Mr. Shaw.
Greg Shaw, 8 Rochambeau Drive. I've done this enough times, I remembered that. I was supposed to say that first. I have no comments about pickleball tonight. My comments are 100% because everything that needs to be said has been said. And what I'd like to end with is on August coming up here, it's going to be 1 year. You're going to be voting 1 year after I started construction. I cleared some trees in August of last year, so I'm very much looking forward to an end to this venture here. But I wanted to just take a second and say that I certainly appreciate you guys' patience and your due diligence of taking the time to look at all the data and give it an honest evaluation. So I appreciate that. My wife and I sincerely appreciate the time, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Next speaker is Mr. Joe Raffles. Welcome, Mr. Raffles.
Mayor, City Council, good evening. How you all doing? I did get a chance to see the updated resolution, actually just today, where it updated up to 20 feet. And that's great. It's a very, very much appreciated, step in the right direction. The original plan that we had actually had the 20-foot in there already as a part of the development. But I just had some comments about it and how the resolution is written. And if I may, here to actually formally request just a removal of the condition 3 for the CUP. The condition, while I'm still very open to having that space available for the city, I believe it should be done through a different channel than the CUP for the operation of the shooting range. As it stands, the new condition 3 would require me to convey 20 feet instead of the original 40 along the northern property line to the city without compensation for the purpose of constructing a future public road between White Creek and City Hall Avenue, just to alleviate traffic, as we all know. But I do want to say this condition, it is unconstitutional under the 5th and 14th Amendment, as well as the Virginia Constitution and relevant case law. The 5th Amendment, it guarantees that private property will not be taken for public use without compensation. That's the only point about this. This is the compensation part for it. It does say, the 14th Amendment, that no state or locality may deprive a person of property without process of due law. Additionally, Virginia's Constitution provides similar protections. The courts have reinforced this through landmark cases. We talked about this before. Nolan, California Coastal Commission, and Dolan and City of Tigard are just two case laws that are out there. The established that condition placed on property development, they must have an essential nexus to the impact of the project, and they have to be proportional to the impact. In our case, our project, it doesn't create a need for the road in that location. We already have a 50-foot easement on the east side of the property that we have dedicated ahead of time to do a full-size road where vehicles can go in 2 lanes back and forth to aid the adjacent property owners. This proposed road that the city comprehensive plan has, it's a long-term conceptual idea, an idea that has no established timeline, it has no funding, no engineering plan so far. Yet under this condition, the burden is placed entirely on us, the property owner, not only me, but also the property owners on the south, on the north side, to give up the land for free with no relation to the impact of our development. It's just dedication of private land, uncompensated, unrelated to the use of this property, which is just, it's against federal and state constitution. Now, if we look back in 2019, Poquoson, they decided they were not going to be a Second Amendment sanctuary, but they were going to be a constitutional city. That's like a step above a Second Amendment sanctuary. This city council made that resolution. And in that resolution, it actually states that, Poquoson hereby declares itself a constitutional city, and that the council of the city is committed to upholding all constitutional rights of the citizens. That stand that the city council took in 2019 is a very important and principled stand. Like we said, the Constitution, it protects more than the Second Amendment. We have other rights to the citizens, and everybody in this room is just as passionate as I am about the Constitution. A lot of us took an oath to it. I remember when I met with Mayor Hutz before his election, I was really happy to hear the reasoning behind the Second Amendment sanctuary versus constitutional city. You don't see that a lot in city governments, in states. So it takes a lot to actually go out there and say, hey, we're going to step it up. We're going to do something more than just the bare minimum. And I'll applaud that. It's a great stance that the city takes, and I want the city to keep that momentum forward. Moreover, I'd like to urge the city council to consider the implications of Virginia Code 15. I'm not going to write it or say it out loud, but essentially it allows property owners to be compensated for attorney fees, damages, and costs if the localities imposes conditions that are found to be unconstitutional. This could potentially expose the city in any land, any plot here in Poquoson, to just bear more substantial costs, just having to defend that. And no property owner wants to go through that. It breaks relationships. It just makes a bad start to a business. It's the only people that really win when that happens are the attorneys. That's just how it is. I recognize that some of the implications of Condition 3 might not have been fully understood when the Planning Commission brought them up and suggested them. And it's understandable, but that's why we're here today, to talk about it, to fix it right here, right now, move forward, and just to do the right thing. Like I mentioned earlier, our original submission, we did include the 20-foot setback to accommodate traffic through this area, because you can see it right there on the map. That connection has always been planned on there. And we don't want to stand in the way of progress, but we want progress to be done the right way. So for all these reasons, I respectfully request that Condition 3 be removed from the conditional use permit. The land will be there. It's been there since day one, reserved for traffic. And I respectfully ask that the city proceeds through the proper channels for the land acquisition instead of making it part of a conditional use permit. I think it would serve a lot better purpose if it's done like that. Another point, on a separate note, the postponement of the resolution, it required us to submit a conceptual site plan. We submitted that back in March for the March meeting, and I was confused because the resolution stated that they wanted an additional one. So I want to ask the question, what exactly in the conceptual site plan that we submitted did not meet the expectations, so I could fix it. I think it showed the parking lot, it showed the ingress, egress. So maybe the proper channel to do this is after the meeting is over, maybe reach out to the city and just get some answers as to what exactly needs to be fixed on the site plan that we submitted. I saw some questions on there about the 100-yard shooting lane, I guess the upstairs or the exterior portion of it. if I can ask, what is the correct procedure for that? Is it to reach out to the planning commission and ask them what information they need about that, or to city council?
Mr. Raffles, this isn't intended to be a question and answer,
Understood.
but I will make an exception just for that. The recommendation would be to work with city staff and
Okay.
the Office of Community Development.
Okay, we'll do that then. And then I saw in the resolution that they extended it to November. And I wanted to request, it's been 4 months since our March meeting, which is where they first saw it. And this is where they're actually finally coming out to it and give us an answer. So now I can go back into the planning board and engaging my designers so I could submit my design to the ARB. And I'm thinking if we would have done this maybe 2-3 months ago, I would have already been at the ARB. So I would like to request if we can extend it to maybe December or January, if that's an option. I saw that the resolution was already written. Just wasn't sure if that's something that can be a pen and ink change. And, that would just give us a lot more time to coordinate back and forth with the city staff to make sure that if there's something in there they don't like, we can go back and fix it to their liking, and it's, we want this project to do right. And that is all I have. Thank you very much for your time. I know we can't take any questions or anything, but I will re-engage with the city, and I wish you all a wonderful.
Thank you, Mr. Raffles. Next speaker is Mr. Belkey. Welcome, Mr. Belkey.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Dan Belkey, and I speak tonight as a Poquoson property and business owner in our fine city. I've got a professional and personal rule I call ACE, avoid costly entanglements. And I believe what's before you in this proposal that has condition 3 in there for the conditional use permit for Mr. Raffles' project is exactly the kind of entanglement a city like ours should be working to avoid. This condition, which would require a private property owner to give up 40 feet, now I just heard 20 feet, swath of their land across their property to the city without compensation, may seem like a planning issue, but it's not just a planning issue, it's a legal one, I'm sure you all know, and a potentially expensive one. Courts in Virginia and across the country have consistently ruled that you can't condition land use approvals on the uncompensated taking of private property, especially when the condition has no direct relation to the development's impact. It's not just bad policy, it's unconstitutional as they said. And if challenged, it's very likely to lose. So my concern isn't just for the applicant tonight, it's for the city, for the taxpayers like me, for the rest of us who could wind up footing the bill for legal defense, potential damages, and possibly higher property taxes to cover the fallout. I know nobody up here is trying to be heavy-handed or unlawful, but sometimes good intentions can still lead to costly mistakes. As someone who's managed risk in business for decades, I can tell you it's a lot cheaper to prevent a problem than to litigate it. This is one of those moments where the city can live up to its commitment to responsible governance by correcting course now before it becomes a legal and financial mess later. Let's make sure we're not just thinking about roads and plans, but also about precedent, fairness, and fiscal responsibility. Let's ace this. Avoid costly entanglement before it grows into something we all regret. Thank you. Thank you for your time and for your services to the people of Poquoson.
Thank you, Mr. Belkey.
Yep.
The next speaker is William, and I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the last name. William, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, City Council, Mayor, everyone here. I apologize for the way I addressed my wife. It reminded me of the late hours I was fixing her Jeep, and I wanted to be here. So I'm afraid I'm not a very eloquent speaker, but I just want to express my support for the project that Mr. Raffles is trying to put in, because I've lived here for almost 10 years now. I would be what many of you move in. So as a move-in, I can only say that after 10 years, I've seen very few businesses actually pop up here. I've seen more leave than I've seen actually show up. And I will consider this a bedroom community. We don't actually have any businesses here. We have stuff that support the people that live here, but not businesses. So I would only say that the kind of 40 foot, 20 foot, and we're going to take this and we're going to put a road through here for legacy and everything else. Well-intentioned, and yes, we need roads. I appreciate the fact that Smith is finally being repaved and stripped after 10 years, so thank you for that. But I would argue that maybe a little bit more thought into this. If you want to put a road in, fine, put a road in. But I would be hard-pressed if I were not in his shoes to fight it all the way or just say, you know what, go ahead. You can have the land. I'll take my business elsewhere. I think we need to encourage businesses to come here and not impose stipulations that cause them to rethink their plans. That's just my thought. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being with us. Those are all the speaker cards I have. Is there anybody else that would like to share their thoughts with us this evening? Very well. We will close the audience for visitors and we'll move on to item D, which is a proclamation for National Night Out. And we have with us tonight our Police Chief, Stephen Cates. So Chief Cates, if you could please join me at the podium. Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for being here, Chief Cates.
Glad to be here.
Proclamation reads as follows. National Night Out will be held on August 5th, 2025. Whereas the National Association of Town Watch sponsors a national community building campaign on Tuesday, August 5th, 2025, entitled National Night Out. Whereas the National Night Out campaign provides an opportunity for neighbors in the city of Poquoson to join over 38 million neighbors across 16,000 communities from all 50 states, U.S. territories, and military bases worldwide. And whereas National Night Out is an annual community building campaign that promotes strong police-community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie to make our neighborhoods safer, more caring places to live and work. And whereas neighbors in the city of Poquoson assist the local law enforcement agency through joint community building efforts and support National Night Out 2025. And whereas it is essential that all members of the city of Poquoson come together with police and work together to build a safer, more caring community. And now, therefore, we, the Council of the City of Poquoson, Virginia, does hereby call upon all neighbors of the City of Poquoson to join the Poquoson Police Department and the National Association of Town Watch in support for National Night Out on Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. Further, let it be resolved that we, the Council of the City of Poquoson, Virginia, does hereby proclaim Tuesday, August 5th, 2025 as National Night Out in the City of Poquoson. And my signature is affixed to the bottom. So Chief, thank you again for your efforts.
Thank you very much.
And everything that the police department does in contributing to the safety and well-being of our citizens. And would you like to share some comments with us?
Just really quick, I would like to invite the entire community, everybody out on Tuesday, August 5th. Festivities begin at 6 p.m. in Municipal Park. Lots of fun, bounce houses for the kids. Really want to extend a thanks to all of our supporters, from individual citizens to a lot of our local businesses that help us make this possible. It's all free to the community. So we invite you to come out and have a good time with us as we celebrate being a community. And that's what makes Poquoson special. So that's all I've got.
Thank you, Chief Cates.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
And Chief, can I have you repeat, because for our audience listening at home, they cannot hear you?
So I won't repeat the entire thing, but we're inviting everybody out on Tuesday, August 5th. Begins at 6 o'clock in Municipal Park. Free to the community, thanks to the generosity of many local donors, individuals, and businesses. But we got a lot of fun stuff planned, bounce houses for the kids, other activities, and food and beverages provided by a lot of our local organizations. So we look forward to seeing everybody out on Tuesday, August 5th.
Thank you again, Chief Cates. Moving on to item E on the agenda, approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the work session from June 9th, 2025?
So move.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Chris, call for vote, please.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Councilman Freeman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting,
Aye.
Councilman Fye,
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett,
Aye.
Mayor Hux.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Do we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the regular session from June 9th, 2025?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Christie?
Vice Mayor Bunting,
Aye.
Councilman Fye,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Councilman Freeman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett,
Aye.
Mayor Hux.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Do we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the special session, June 21st, 2025?
So move.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Very well. Christie?
Councilwoman Emmett,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Councilman Fye,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting,
Aye.
Councilman Freeman,
Aye.
Mayor Hux.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7.
Thank you, Christie. Item F on the agenda is a public hearing. Before us is an ordinance granting renewal of the cable franchise with Cox Communications of Hampton Roads LLC. And Randy, can you share some information with us, please?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few things to remind you of and to inform the public of pertaining to cable franchises. First, they're non-exclusive, meaning we have two in this city. We're fortunate to have two. I've been in places where we struggle to get one. So we have two, and they overlap. This is a renewal. So this is a document previously negotiated, previously subject in its earlier iterations to public hearings. And over the course of my time in public service, our discretion as a local government has changed. In the earlier days of cable franchise, the cable was it, and that was before internet. So a cable franchise agreement is not about internet. It's not about programming. And in 2007, the state took away our independent ability to charge a franchise fee. So really, the items of negotiation for public service connections, which you see reflected here, I would note in Appendix A, there is a Scribner's error incorrectly identifying the building located at 12 Municipal Drive as the public safety building. That is the Public Works building. That will be corrected, assuming you authorize us forward. And another question that I got today was, indirectly, was how much money do we get from this? And when the state took it through their action in 2006, beginning in 2007, it was collected, we get about $20,000 a month from this tax, which is paid to the state, and then they pull it up and remit it back to us. And when they send it back to us, they don't differentiate between the various sources. So I can't tell you with certainty how much of the approximately $20,000 a month we get is specific to Cox. We do have a representative from Cox here. I would tell you that one of the other things that we have in a cable franchise is customer service requirements, public access requirements. I'm sure you've seen that from your review. I would tell you that during my time here, got no significant complaints from about either of the cable companies. Now, sometimes service goes out with a storm. I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about customer service issues. So with that, I'll stop talking, but if you have more questions for me, I'll try to answer them. And again, there is someone here from Cox who I'm sure will speak and can answer any questions you may have specifically about their business.
Thank you, Randy. Do we have any questions or comments from council members? Well done, Randy, well explained. And as usual, the meeting packet is top-notch, so thank staff for that. Being a public hearing, we'll now open the floor for public comment on this ordinance.
Representative from Cox?
Yes, sir, welcome. Good evening, sir. Thanks for being with us.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Barrett Stork with Cox Communications. We just appreciate the opportunity to continue providing service here in Poquoson. As Mr. Wheeler stated, this is a document we've had for many years, and we're renewing it now. It's a 10-year agreement that allow us to maintain and build out and enhance our network here in the city to continue providing cable television services for the residents. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
No questions tonight. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being with us. We have anybody else that would like to comment on this? Okay, then we'll close the public hearing, and I'll ask for a motion and a second.
Mr. Mayor, I propose an ordinance granting renewal of the cable franchise with Cox Communications, Hampton Roads LLC.
Second.
Thank you. Christie, call for a vote, please.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Mayor Hux?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, Christie. Item G on the agenda, old business, or sometimes it's referred to as unfinished business. This item first came up at the beginning of this year, and the staff, planning commission, and council has put in quite a bit of effort in support. On many occasions now, we've offered our support and encouragement to Mr. Raffles. We certainly think it'll be a great asset to the city, and we've wished him well. We have worked to try to find ways that it meets the needs of the community, Mr. Raffles as a business owner as well. And also, I would like to share again that all actions taken by this council are taken under the auspices of our city attorney, Mr. Wayne Moore, and usually in cases such as this, I show respect for his tenure, but Mr. Moore has been in the legal profession since prior to my first birthday, so we have somebody with quite a bit of expertise that advises us, and we do everything under his auspices when it comes to legal advice. And Mr. Moore, as always, we appreciate what you do for us. And also just want to share that we go to great lengths. Anybody that was here earlier for the work session where we talked about the pickleball court, we go to great lengths and sometimes make things hard on ourselves for the sake of providing the best government service that we possibly can. We try to be patient and understanding and make decisions that suit the greater good of the entire community based on the best of our ability, by the grace of God, and the best information available to us at the time. We certainly don't make knee-jerk reactions. We certainly don't make half-baked decisions. It's all done with a great deal of effort, research, and advice from professionals. So that being said, just like to read a little bit of information provided to us in the meeting packet. But this is a resolution to amend postponement of consideration of a conditional permit application by Joe Rapples of Islander Outdoors LLC for the operation of a multi-use facility to include an indoor gun range, gunsmithing and firearm manufacturing, retail, and office classrooms to be operated at 300 City Hall Avenue, an approximate 2.42 acre parcel identified as tax map parcel 27-01-00-0092, which is zoned village commercial. Applicant, Mr. Joe Raffles, has submitted a request to City Council to extend the postponement of Resolution 5358, which is included with this memo for consideration of the conditional use permit due to having been out of the country for military service. His request a consideration date be moved from September 22nd, 2025 to November 10th, 2025. The attached resolution, if approved, would amend the Planning Commission's recommended condition number 3 to reduce the city right-of-way from 40 feet to 20 feet. City Council will not entertain any additional amendments or additions to the conditional use permit prior to November 10th, 2025. And just a reminder, at the March 24th meeting of this year, the conditions were provided. So we're about 3 months into it now, well, 3.5 months into it. And I won't read the entire resolution. So much of it has already been established. But I will read, before I ask for a motion in a second, the most pertinent parts of this resolution. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Poquoson, Virginia, that consideration of the request for a conditional use permit for the land and facility that I have previously identified is hereby postponed until the City Council's regularly scheduled meeting on November 10th, 2025, and that was the date that had been previously requested of us. So we'll hopefully approve that in just a minute, November 10th, 2025. And be it resolved further that the Planning Commission's recommended condition number 3 be amended to read: the applicant shall convey a 20-foot portion of property for the purpose of a city right-of-way along the northern property line of the subject property to provide connection from City Hall Avenue and a future extension of Alpha Street. This 20-foot section shall be conveyed and will be achieved consistent with the depiction provided by the applicant and is referenced in the application and presentation materials in the conformance with the City of Poquoson Comprehensive Plan. And be it resolved finally that City Council will not entertain any additional amendments or additions to the conditional use permit prior to November 10th, 2025. This resolution shall be in effect on and after its adoption. And I will elaborate just a little bit to say that this right-of-way and intended connection to Alpha Street does not have anything to do with the legacy. It's coincidental that the legacy is there. Council has discussed the possibility of a single lane connection between Alpha Street, City Hall Avenue, that would serve as a bike path, walking path, or could also be emergency access. We have other precedences, including one right next door to me at the end of Dorothy Drive, of this as a solution. It allows for the requirement to be reduced from 40 feet to 20 feet. And we feel like that's a good compromise that hopefully everybody can live with and meet the needs of all involved. So we're optimistic that can be utilized. We feel like that it'll benefit Mr. Raffles' business as well, just due to greater access once it comes to pass. That the access would be more readily available from Wythe Creek and the shopping center as well, in addition to just City Hall Avenue. But just to share some thoughts on that. Any questions or comments from council members on this topic?
Just that corridor has been in the comprehensive plan, so it is something that, has been documented previously.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not a new concept, and what we're trying to do is make it more palatable with the reduction from 40 feet to 20 feet.
I think generally, any time that we're dealing with someone that is a volunteer in our military services and deployed, that ought to just be an automatic extension. We don't have to do that right now, but later, I think that rather than having to apply to get an extension because of military service, it should be automatic,
Yes, sir.
or whatever length of time the deployment was.
Yes, sir. Point taken. Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
could we not pass this for the delay, or postponement, and leave out the paragraph talking about resolve further regarding the 20 feet, 40 feet? Just leave that part out for later consideration?
Go on, jump in on that?
Yes, sir. Please do.
If you remove the current resolved further paragraph, that would simply leave in place the previous recommendation of the 40. So yes, sir, you could do that, but that's the implication of removing that resolved further paragraph.
It just seems like there's two things for discussion. One is the postponement of the thing, number, and there's a completely separate thing is the 20 feet, 40 feet.
Yes, sir. That is correct. Any comments from other council members on that?
Then it's going to be open for some discussion about any changes after November 10th.
Well, I mean, the way it's written right now is the council will not entertain any additional amendments or additions to the conditional use permit prior to November 10th. That's how it reads. Yes, sir. I mean, right now, in response to Councilman Fye's question, I mean, we need to get a consensus. I mean, my opinion is to proceed as written. That's what the plan was for tonight. And
I agree.
Okay.
Let me get a little clarification on what Councilman Fye wanted to change. I didn't get all of that.
Yes, sir. Please do.
So just leave out that paragraph. It's a separate, there's two things here. We're throwing them into one. One is to postpone everything till November, which, as you stated, just makes sense because of the deployment.
Right.
This 40 feet to 20 feet is not part of that. We're throwing it in, though. What would it hurt if we did not throw it in?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I think that may do a disservice to the applicant because that would affect his future planning that he's going to do over the next several months with the renderings, the two scale drawings with dimensions and that. I think that would affect his planning process.
Thank you. Thank you for the input. Keith, you have the option of making a motion accordingly if you choose to do so.
We haven't had the motion yet, so it's kind of still out there.
So as I understand it, the motion is to delete
the motion would be. We haven't made it.
Yes, sir.
To delete the resolve finally that city council will not entertain additional amendments or addition to the condition prior to November 10th, 2025.
Mr. Moore, I believe Councilman Fai's recommendation was to remove the resolved further paragraph, not the resolved finally paragraph.
I'm sorry.
All right, so what is the change?
Well, there's no change yet because the motion hasn't been made, but my question is the negative impact of taking out that result further paragraph and just granting the extension for the postponement. I don't know, that's why I'm asking. That's why I'm trying to find out, is there going to be a negative impact by doing that? Angie came up with something, which is an assumption, but good assumption.
I personally don't think it will be. In preparation tonight, like I typically do for matters like this, I spoke with each council member individually and had a feeling where everybody stood on this. I haven't yet called for a motion and a second for approval of this resolution, but Keith, you have the option, if you see fit, to make a motion right now to do as you're suggesting, and if we can get a second on that, we'll take a vote on it.
He's made the motion. I haven't heard a second.
I haven't made the motion.
I haven't understood the second.
I thought you.
No, I'm just asking the question. Yes. Go ahead.
Can I ask another question?
Yes, sir.
What is your purpose for taking out the 20 feet?
Because the purpose of the original thing was to grant a postponement. We have unilaterally added this.
Yes, sir, and if I can share some thoughts on that without interrupting, I hope I'm not. This is initiative that the council has taken to reduce the requirement from 40 feet to 20 feet, to give clear, decisive direction, as Angie has alluded to, of what the requirement is. And if we can make that decision tonight, then Mr. Raffles will know exactly what he's dealing with tonight. If we take that out tonight, then it's back to the 40 feet.
Okay.
And I'm going to put a nickel's worth in here. if
Yes,
you
sir.
don't mind.
Please do.
What we haven't had yet is any dimensional drawing showing the size of the building, okay, where it's going to be located on a lot, how far away from any border, okay? And we really don't know whether the impact of the 20 feet or 40 feet would have any impact on the building, because we don't know how big the building is. We've seen 3 different drawings on what it might look like, but we haven't had any drawing that showed any dimensions. And so does that 20 feet impact the building? I don't know. I don't have a clue. Okay? And requiring it to be sold is different than buying it. Kind of, sort of. And it helped my decision a lot if I knew what size the building was going to be and how far off the property line. If the 20 feet is no impact on the building, then that's one thing. If it is an impact on the building, that's another. But we don't know. We haven't received the drawing yet.
Thank you, Mr. Southall. Any further comments, questions from council members?
Well, I'll follow that up with, trying to get business in is a good idea, okay? And following the plan, the city's plan, and having access for in case of emergency egress is a good idea. That's something that we should do, and it follows the plan. If it costs the business, that's a different issue, and so we could look at that. But I think that part is worth taking a look at. Does 20 feet make a difference? Maybe. Not make a difference? That makes a difference. So, but I don't know what the size of the building is. You've given us 3 different drawings and look at it in 3 different positions with no sizes on anything. And so I don't know.
Thank you, Mr. Southall. Anything else from council members? It was good discussion. I appreciate everybody leaning in and sharing their thoughts on that.
Mr. Mayor, just one more thing, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
To provide guidance for the applicant, I know that there was a question of what council or staff is looking for. In the resolution, it does say, the council requests that the applicant prepare a conceptual site plan depicting ingress, egress, property lines, building orientation, and dimensions, inclusive of all phases, the parking lot, landscaping, and provide additional information related to the above-ground portion of the 100-yard shooting bay. So per scale drawings with dimensions, I think there's good guidance in the resolution.
If, for instance, if he were to provide a real drawing, okay, a real construction type drawing that we could approve for the conditional use permit, and if that drawing shows, in fact, that 20 feet makes a difference whether he can build the building or not, then that's an issue. But if it shows it's not an issue, then we can negotiate the 20 feet. But we don't know. We haven't had a drawing yet.
Thank you again, Mr. Southall. Anything else from council members?
Mr. Mayor, I propose a resolution to amend postponement of consideration of a conditional use permit application by Joe Raffles, IOVA LLC, for the operation of a multi-use facility to include an indoor gun range, gunsmithing, and firearm manufacturing, retail, and office classrooms to be operated at 300 City Hall Avenue, an approximate 2.42 acre parcel identified as tax map parcel 27-01-00-0092, Zone Village Commercial.
Second.
Thank you. Christie, call for vote, please.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Yeah, I want to ask a clarification. Does this mean that we can discuss an amendment after November 10th? Then aye.
Councilman Fye.
Thank you, bud. Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting.
Aye.
Mayor Hucks.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7.
Thank you, Christie. Item 2, under old business, is the Little Florida Road sidewalk, CVS to Gayland Drive update. We have with us our city engineer, Mr. Sean Crawford. Sean, the floor is yours.
Hello. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Manager, members of council. As you may recall, in the May council meeting, I presented the right-of-way at Little Florida from CVS to Gayland Drive.
Yes.
At the conclusion of the meeting, council was informed that the city engineer, as well as the city manager's office, would like to meet with 2 homeowners regarding an easement to help this project. We were able to meet with one of the homeowners and have been granted permission for an easement. We're still working on meeting with the second homeowner at 2 Oxford Views. So at this time, I'd like to present a couple options to council moving forward. We can either hold off and wait until we meet with the second homeowner and try to get the easement, or we can go ahead and proceed with procuring an engineering firm and working on design and some conceptual early preliminary engineering work as we work through the logistics with the second homeowner. So at this time, I'd like to, ask which direction council would like to move, and from there.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a brief comment?
Yes, sir.
We did meet with the second property owner, but the issue was that property owner was literally weeks away from selling the house. So we've reached out twice so far to request a meeting with the new property owner. We just haven't heard back yet. So we were successful in that. Original homeowner was very much excited about the project, and had he continued to be there, it would have been an answer very similar to 1 Oxford. But we just haven't had a chance to sit down with the brand new owner yet.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I've read what you sent out, and I like the option 2, which is proceeding, but I want to make sure that the new or soon-to-be homeowner understands we're not running past them, we're not running over them. We're fully aware that they get to make the call. That what we're going to do is kind of leading up to it, and we can change based upon their opinion.
Right, so we hope to meet with them soon. The city manager's office is still currently reaching out to them, and we'll make headway with that, and whatever direction they tend to go is how the design will,
Yeah, I don't want them to think that, we disregard their input.
No, they'll have a formal sit-down, and the renderings will, or the survey plans I will go over with them in detail. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Keith. It's a good point. Yes, ma'am?
I don't think that time would be wasted using option 2, because even if they said no, then at that property, we would revert to status quo. People hang out in the street. I'm not sure they'd want that. So, but it would be great and safe up to and including that property. So I don't think there's any issue with going option 2.
I agree. The issue for that second property is, do we hug the road much closer and stay within our easement, or work with them to expand the easement a little bit, which have a more natural flow to the sidewalk? But either way, we can get there. But it's a difference between having kind of a meandering, normal type sidewalk and one that is closer in look to the one right in front of the Farm Fresh. And we think we can do that, but we would prefer not to do that. And the landowner's thoughts on that will be paramount, because we would need an easement to do it the other way, the preferred.
And this is the property with the fence.
Yes, sir, that's correct. And I can comfortably follow up with Mr. Wheeler in saying that it is possible to design it in the current right-of-way without the easement, but we would look at substantial additional costs.
Sounds like there's no risk to proceeding with option.
Agree with option 2.
So too, any other questions or comments from council members? In this case, I think we just need a consensus.
Do it.
I think we got it.
For option 2. Anybody opposed to option 2?
Consensus. We'll proceed to design.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Well done. All right, that concludes item G, the old business, and we'll move into item H, new business. Item 1 under new business is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase a debris truck from Infrastructure Solutions Group. And we have with us Mr. John Anderson. He's our Director of Public Works. So welcome, John. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we're looking to purchase a new debris truck with the Infrastructure Solutions Group. They have it on the lot available now, and we can use VDOT funds to purchase that. We're going to use it for our debris pickup program. It's working well. It's a TL3 lightning loader debris
Mr.
truck.
Anderson, we can't hear you. If you could speak into the
I'm
microphone,
sorry.
please.
Pull it down towards you.
Sorry. We're seeking approval for this TL3 lightning loader debris truck from Infrastructure Solutions Group, and it's available now, and we're seeking to use VDOT funds for that. And it's $220,039.44. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have about that.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the funding that you said for that was out of what bucket?
VDOT?
Okay, so it's their money. I was wondering, because it's a tight budget year, and I was concerned. I was like, well, there you go. We have to buy a truck. But if it's covered by VDOT,
Right, so this would be picking up debris in the right-of-way, which would also clear up any drainage issues, so that's why we think
Why
it's
they-
not expense, yes.
fantastic.
Right.
And I'm going to say, this is covered in the CCIP under solid waste rather than under Public Works.
That's correct. John, that's just a division of the Department of
Understand.
Public Works. And just to be clear, we get an annual allocation from VDOT for road maintenance to include roadside drainage. That's the money we're talking about using.
Right.
And is often the case, we get a little bit of extra payment at the end of the fiscal year if the state ends up having more money, and so there is sufficient money to acquire this using those funds without impacting our pavement schedule for this year.
I know you have 2 trucks on the dream sheet, so to speak.
Yes.
How are the rest, how many do we have in the whole fleet?
We have 5 right
5.
now, and
Good.
so 2 of the older ones are around 20 years old, and they break down a lot,
Yeah,
so
I bet.
that's why we're requesting a new one right now.
Understand. Makes sense.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me, so the old one, it's 22 years old. This one's going to be a 2025. What features, what new features, when bells and whistles, would be on the new truck that you wouldn't have on the old one?
Okay, it has different mechanism to lift the arm. So it has what are called T-handles, which are, it's kind of like a joystick with multiple levers. That's a little bit more advanced than what we have in our older trucks. But it takes a little bit getting used to if you're not used to it, but we've used them before in a rental truck, for example, and they work well.
Would it increase the efficiency of collecting the debris, having that better articulation or the different controls?
I think so, yeah.
Thanks.
I've observed these guys, they're great at being able to pick up a dime.
They're good with the existing equipment as well, yes, absolutely.
And John, this new truck will help us to better support the new program we have for bulk debris pickup?
Yes, sir, yes. Yes, so right now, a couple of trucks are in and out for repairs, and we want to make sure we have a spare truck in case we go down picking up the precincts to make sure that we pick up anything that's missed every single.
And I understand this item was in the CCIP for fiscal year 2029?
Yes, sir.
So we're just this is not an emergent issue. We're just moving it to the left on the schedule, and we can take advantage of this not funding to pay for it. So sounds like a good plan to me. Yes, sir. Thank you for being with us. Any other questions or comments from council members? Okay, can we get a motion and a second, please?
Mr. Mayor, I propose a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase a debris truck from Infrastructure Solutions Group.
Second.
Thank you. Christie?
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Woman Hubbard?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting?
Aye.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Mayor Hux?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7.
Thank you, Christie. Moving right along, item 2 under new business, approval of the school board appointment standard operating procedure. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council members?
A little bit of discussion.
Yes, sir.
Just to make sure that everybody knows what we're talking about. The only, the audience, not us. The only thing we're doing differently with this is we're simply going to treat interim appointments the same as full-time, regular appointments. And that's the change.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just
And-
wanted to point that out.
Yeah, thank you. That's a point well made, Mr. Freeman. Thank you for that. I mean, this procedure reflects the process that we have just recently gone through with the appointment of a school board member. And I mean, after we have the motion and the second for approval, I'll elaborate a little bit on a related matter as well. But for the approval of this school board appointment standard operation procedure.
This, we already had the motion.
Got it,
but
motion second, okay.
My question is, this will be written into the SOP.
Yes, sir.
Got it.
Yeah, that is correct.
Cool.
Okay, thank you, Christie.
Vice Mayor Bunting?
Aye.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Mayor Hux?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
All right, thank you very much. That's a big step for us to get that solidified. And just what I'd like to elaborate, I mean, in the past, we've had a standard operating procedure for the appointment of school board members, and then a second one for the appointment of the other 13 boards and commissions that we're obligated to populate. There's lots of opportunity to streamline that process. I mean, right now, the other 13 boards and commissions represent about nearly 70 positions, individual positions. So it's an ongoing struggle for us to try to populate all those boards and commissions. So I've initiated the process working with Randy and Christie, our clerk, to come up with a draft of ways we can streamline that. And once we get that draft in place, I'll share that with the other council members, and everybody can offer their insight, and we'll get it dialed in to the point that everybody's happy with it. And at that point, we will take a vote to approve that as well, and maybe even consolidate that in some way with what we've done with the school board appointment process. So just want to share that with everybody. Item 3 under new business is the ordinance to amend Chapter 58 for peddlers and solicitors of the City of Poquoson Code of Ordinance. And who do we have from staff tonight that's going to help us with that? Mr. Joe Cachamilio, our Commissioner of Revenue. So Joe, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Sure, thank you. Mayor Hux and council members. For your consideration this evening, in light of some recent increases in applications for soliciting permits, we've had an increase in the amount of solicitors in the city, and that has brought up a few concerns. And we collectively, you've had some discussion about that, and so tonight for your consideration, we're recommending some changes, minor changes to the ordinance, and maybe possibly one addition to that. Basically, we're recommending that the hours of solicitation be changed from was 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Now, council, we're recommending that we do 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We also want to exclude holidays, federal holidays and Sundays for solicitation in our city. And we also are going to ask the permittee to always have a copy of the permit in hand, and they must produce that if a citizen so requests it. Those are basically the modifications that we want to the code. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those. We have had an increase in permits. We usually very often have one a month, maybe during the summer months. We had 3 in June, which is a little more than average. And while most of the solicitors, we had no problems, we did get multiple complaints about one of them. And so I think that precipitated some of these changes.
I do have a question. So it's really more for the folks at home, because we've had this conversation ourselves to understand when we had this conversation that this isn't going to limit Girl Scouts, although they probably shouldn't be out at 9 o'clock. Who are the people who are, who does this address?
The for-profit businesses. Mainly, we're looking at the pest controls and, you know, any kind of home improvement, things like that. Companies that are for-profit in general.
Great, thank you.
I think we should specify that a little harder than what we got in the regulation to make sure it's clear to everybody that it doesn't apply to like civic organizations or religious organizations.
Okay, we can make that, those changes.
Go ahead.
No, please.
I was going to ask if solicitation, I mean, for those of us that have gone around and gotten signatures on petitions, you can't do it before 5 o'clock because people don't show up, is actually doing something like that without asking for money, is that considered soliciting? Or a lawyer question, but.
Yeah, that's, I'm not.
By mask.
Yeah, no, you don't.
Okay.
It's only for
Is that true?
profit.
We don't, good. Okay. Okay, I didn't know. Thank you.
We didn't hear the answer to that.
We discussed this prior, that, as you mentioned, Joe, it's only for-profit organizations. So when you need to get signatures the next time you need to run, you're allowed to do that. You don't have to have a permit in order to make that happen. Just don't go at 9 o'clock.
You know what, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because because I was about to come and say we need to have differentiation between commercial and non-commercial, but I'm so glad because I read it closer, and in my head, it was just that the nonprofits don't have to pay the fee for the permit.
That's all it says.
But reading it again, my apologies for that, it does say they are not required to obtain a permit, and these restrictions are for those who have a permit. Thank you. Yes, perfect.
Now, the permit we're asking them to carry with them is city permit.
Correct.
And you guys are the ones that require
We
them
issue
to
those.
check the
We do
state.
administer that in coordination with the police department.
Okay, so like Lions Club, in order to solicit and get funds in front of Food Lion, we had to get a Virginia solicitation of contributions law permit. So, but it's the local
That's a
one. they
little
have to-
different than this one.
Okay.
One more clarification, Joe, I'm sorry, but thank you. When people do knock on your door and they are a for-profit organization, each one of them has to have a copy of this permit.
That's correct. That's the way it's.
And actually,
being
each one of them
proposed.
must have a permit, individual to them, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, each solicitor must have it. So if I'm a pest control organization and I have 3 canvassers, each one must obtain their own, and there's a separate fee for each one.
That's right, because they can talk around that if they're nefarious people. They can say, oh, my boss has this permit. He's around the corner talking to our neighbors. No,
Require
where's
them
yours, buddy?
To produce that upon request, correct.
Thank you.
Again, my point was, rather than, as Councilwoman Angie said, a second reading to notice, we need that right up front, that it doesn't apply to civic and/or religious organizations.
Do we
So it's
wanna-
very clear without the quote, second
So Mayor,
close
should we
reading.
postpone this and add that language next time?
Yes, sir. I think that might be a good idea. I mean, as usual, in preparation for this meeting tonight, I've spoken with all my fellow council members individually, and there was a general concern for that. But with that being said, I do want to thank staff, because I think y'all listened very well, and what y'all brought to us is exactly what we're asking for at the time. But sometimes after we see it in writing, it causes us to think a little bit more about it. And with any matter such as this, sometimes it takes a couple attempts to get it dialed in.
Easy enough to make the
get it like we want it.
Mayor, we'll
So,
be happy to do that.
yes, sir. And
Bring it back for your consideration next time.
Of course, and yeah, I'd spoken with Randy about this in advance as well, and don't see, it's no big sense of urgency with this. So I think we can certainly, Keith, did you have another?
And what, in the thing, it talks about chapter 58, peddlers and solicitors, and the definitions of canvasser and solicitor, but what's a peddler?
So, it's a detail, huh?
Yeah, well.
They get a permit?
So peddler, something peddling wares and actually selling something directly out of like a van, like I would say a Capitol Meats or maybe Schwann's would be a peddler. So they actually have a good right there, ready for purchase. So if they came to your house, you could say, I want a case of these chickens and steaks, and they can produce that for you right away. Versus the canvasser or solicitor who is looking for future business. They're not there to provide anything immediately for distribution or consumption. And a peddler's permit is quite different than a solicitor's
Was it
permit.
really?
We have a $500 fee for the
Wow.
peddler's permit, yes.
Wow. I'm sorry, I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. So this does not include people who are hanging door hangers, because they're not knocking to talk to you right now. They're just leaving a door hanger, and if you choose to call them, you can choose to call them. That's a distinction that's important, because a lot of folks don't understand that. But people can go up and leave a door hanger for whatever coupons or solar service or whatever. That's not the, yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I've got another one too, I'm sorry.
Please do.
It's a part. Since, just under consideration, I had a resident today just mention, and I thought it was an interesting idea, that other municipalities will require the solicitors to wear or have their permit visible. So that might be something under consideration so that folks don't have to ask them to produce it, but it's just visible on them,
Like-
possibly.
Like tape it to your shoe?
Well, you could like, if there was like a graphic and you could have it in your little holder. Just a thought.
Yeah. Thank you, Angie. Joe, just food for thought, just a suggestion. It may be as simple as adding a note to section 58-33 that talks about it shall be unlawful for any person under a permit issued under this article to solicit or canvass in the city on Sundays or federal holidays. And of course, it has the time frame. It may be as simple as a note saying this does not apply to the organizations identified in section 58-54, paragraph B. That's the paragraph that talks about the not-for-profit, charitable, religious, or educational organization. It may be something that simple, but just food for thought. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Freeman.
We want to postpone this until the next meeting or the meeting after, or just indefinite?
We will be ready at your next meeting.
Yeah, actually, we can do it next meeting.
August 11th. Yeah, if we can get a motion to postpone, please.
So moved.
Second.
So that would be postponed until the August 11th, 2025 meeting. Okay. Thank you. Christie?
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Vice
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Mayor Hux?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, carried by a vote of 7-0.
All right, thank you. Thanks to everybody. Joe, thank you again for being with us. I appreciate it. All right, item 4 under new business is a resolution making appointment to the Virginia Peninsula Community College Board. Do we have a motion and a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to propose a resolution appointing Ms. Mary Sandy to the Virginia Peninsula Community College Board. Her term will expire 30 June 2029.
Second.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
Good choice.
Thank you. Christie?
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Mayor Hux?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, Christie. Item I, comments of the city clerk. Christie, right back to you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Currently, there is an opening for the school board in the central precinct. This opening will be advertised in the newspaper, city website, social media, and the electronic sign, and the city television stations. All applicants will need to be applications will need to be turned in to the city clerk by July 28th, 2025 at 4:30 in the city manager's office. On July 25 at 5:30 p.m., a public hearing will be held during a city council special meeting, at which time any names added during the public hearing for consideration and all interested applicants will be read into record by the city clerk. Only those persons named during the public hearing can be appointed. Adopted SOP precinct council members will need to provide recommendations for those applicants that they would like to interview for their precinct by July 31st. Interviews will be conducted during a closed session during or another date as council chooses. At the August 11th, 2025 regular council meeting, council can choose to make an appointment at that time.
Thank you, Christie. Any questions or comments for Christie from council? Okay. Thank you again, Christie.
I have a
Item-
question.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, Keith has a question. It's
We're
important.
going to be having a
It's a-
special meeting on the 28th of July.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, that was it.
Yeah, and it'll be a very brief meeting just to specifically address that one issue.
To that?
Yes, sir, please do.
The reason for that is because the Code of Virginia prescribes a 45-day period from the date of the effective date of the resignation, and since the gentleman who resigned did so effective the day of resignation, it puts you on the clock, and you only have 2 meetings in between, one of which by your procedure and in custom and state code, you need to do, Christie just did, and then there's a public hearing, and it has been the council's practice to do interviews not necessarily the same night of the public hearing, and then not necessarily rush that to an approval. So that's how we got to a 4-step process to go faster than it warrants, because it's an important decision. So we don't rush it, and combine that with your summer schedule, and regretfully we'll have to ask you to entertain 2 special meetings, but and potentially more, depending on how many applicants you have and whether or not those applicants are interviewed on one night or perhaps.
Thank you for the questions, and Randy, thank you for elaborating on that and providing a clarification. Anything else on that? Okay, good. Moving right along, item J, comments of the city manager. Randy?
I don't know that I have a whole lot this evening, except that I want to clarify that when we wrote the agenda item, it was before you adopted your newest SOP for school board appointments. So I just would, for the public, just like to briefly summarize one section.
Please do.
So following the public hearing, this is the new SOP. The council shall invite for interview each qualified person, i.e. applicant at least 18 years old, resident and qualified voter of Poquoson, and a resident specified district. And so in previous iterations, we looked for recommendations, but in the new SOP, what it says is you'll interview each person that's otherwise qualified and properly be placed into consideration, with the possible exception of an unreconcilable schedule conflict, or if that person has been interviewed for the exact same position in the last 12 months. So that should make that recommendation process simpler and more inclusive. We couldn't write that based on something you hadn't done yet. So just wanted to footnote that. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Randy. I appreciate the clarification. As always, it's value added. So item K is council directives. Keith?
None at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Debbie? Okay. You welcome. Jeannie?
Picnic in the park was so much fun. It was a really good night. Loved the music, loved seeing everyone out there. I regret I won't be here for the August 5th. I'm on vacation, so no interviews that week, please. But I can't wait till we have the next get-together in the park, because it was a good time. The community recreation does a bang-up job. And I loved seeing the Islanderettes twirl. That was awesome.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Jeannie.
That's it.
Okay. Mr. Freeman?
I think we had really good discussions tonight, the work session plus the council meeting, and I think that's helpful for citizens.
Yes, sir.
That's all.
Thank you. Appreciate the feedback, Mr. Freeman. Angie?
I think Mr. Freeman said it great. I concur. I don't have anything else to add tonight.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Southall?
Well, Lord knows I've talked enough tonight. However, I do have to thank the people who came out to city council to pay attention to the city government, okay? I wish more people did, and especially thank the ones at home who did it, but more especially the ones who came out. And I invite all the citizens to apply for one of the various boards and commissions that we have. We have lots of boards. We've got a lot. We're always needing help. So don't just talk about city government, become part of it, apply, and help us out. With that, I'm going to be quiet. Thank you. I've had enough tonight.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Southall. And I'd like to thank Mr. Jason Ernzen for helping us out with IT. So appreciate it, Jason. If anybody's ridden down to White House Cove lately, they'll notice the improvements made to the porta potty enclosure. So I know some myrtle bushes down there have been removed and things are cleaned up. So John, thanks to you and the Public Works folks for contributing to a better looking area down there, right next to the city pier. I'd also like to comment on the completion of the living shoreline down at the wharf. Anybody that hadn't been down there, that's worth a trip. That is a huge improvement. And I'd like to thank Laura Noose, our environmental compliance officer. I know she's been hard at work, and their assistant city manager, Tanya, as well, and we have our finance director, Tara, for helping secure the funding for that. So thanks to all involved, but that is tax dollars well invested that I think will pay off for us for decades to come, hopefully and indefinitely. And I'd like to thank everybody tonight as well for their patience. Staff worked all day and probably didn't even have time to go home before they had to be back here for the work session that started at 5:30. So staff can't thank y'all enough. And on that note, out of respect for staff, well, once we get finished with the closed session, reconvenement and adjournment, if we could all, I'd just like to respectfully request that we could all vacate in a timely manner so staff can head home and recharge. But thanks in advance for that. The next item is the closed session. Do we have a motion and a second, please?
Mr. Mayor, I propose a closed session pursuant to Section 2-2-371 Alpha Juliet of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended for discussion of acquisition or disposition of property, real property.
Second. Thank you. Christie?
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Fye.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting.
Aye.
Mayor Huck.
Aye.
Carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, Christie. We're now in closed session.
I'll be in court tomorrow.
All right, do we have a motion and a second for reconvenement from closed session?
Second.
You need to certify?
You reconvene and then certify?
That was for reconvening.
Oh,
Okay, second.
Okay. Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilman Southall? Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting?
Aye.
Councilman By? Mayor Hucks?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carries 7-0.
All right, so now we are out of closed session, and we need a motion and a second for certification of the closed session.
Mr. Mayor, I move we certify the closed session and that only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements per paragraph 2.2-3712. Only such public business matters as were identified in the motion were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting by the public body.
Second.
Thank you. Christie, call for vote, please.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting?
Aye.
Councilman By?
Aye.
Mayor Hucks? Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Can we have a motion and a second, please, for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Christie?
Councilman Southall? Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting? Aye. Councilman By?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Mayor Hucks?
Aye. Thank you, Christie. We are adjourned.
That was going so